Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 1st, and it's my birthday. Unfortunately, it's the first day back to school, and on the way in, we run into none other than Naoto Shirogane. He says that even though the case is solved, he's still skeptical, so he's enrolled as a first year and decided to stick around for a bit. After class, while on our way to hang out at Junes, we notice Naoto being hardcore flirted with by some girls. But before we can rescue him, he Sigma pills them and says he's not interested in hanging out. He reiterates this when we try to invite him to Junes, so we just head out instead. At Junes, Yosuke mentions that next week we're heading on our school trip. Supposedly, it's to some artificial island near the ocean. Rise mentions that she played a show at a club there 3 years ago, but Chie smashes any dreams of relaxation, saying that the plan is to visit the private school there. But thankfully, they're mixing the first and second years for the trip. We wrap up our hangout, and I head home to harvest some veggies and read some books. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 2nd. Let's get going. Let's start the day and new semester off right with some Funky Student. Thankfully, it's just some more category puzzles. But I get a little stumped on the last one. See, I know the answer. It's things that start with vowels. Apparently, that's not it, even though I am correct. If a word starts with a vowel sound, it should be addressed as an item, not a item. This is apparently called an indefinite article. You learn something new every day. Speaking of learning new things, Yukiko and I had to see a movie together, as this month's movie is a horror flick, Yukiko's favorite genre. Also, I apparently won the soda lottery right before this. In the evening, I head to my janitor job, where Sayoko starts to open up to me. Apparently, one of her patients at her old hospital died, a young kid, and she regrets having to leave him over some petty relationship drama. I think I'm starting to understand her more now. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 3rd. Let's get going. I start the day by checking on Rise and her classic red light. I decide to hang with Marie, and we head to the riverbank for a quiet place to think. She's a bit upset that we've gotten nowhere, and asks why Kanji's mom suggested going to a museum. I have an epiphany, and realize that there is someone in town that would know about works of art. So I drag Marie to Daidara the blacksmith. While poking around, Yukiko and Teddy show up and say they were just out shopping. We tell them we're here to ask Daidara about Marie's comb, and Ted takes it upon himself to begin the interrogation. He immediately gets intimidated, so Marie hands him the comb instead. And he inspects it, and all he can tell us is that it doesn't seem to be of this world, which gives Marie a migraine. Still frustrated, and now with a headache, she storms out. In the evening, I head to Junes with the family, and while they head off to use the bathroom, I overhear Teddy being trained. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 4th. Let's get going. Thank you all for the birthday wishes the other day. I just got back from a trip to visit some friends, and seeing the literal dozens of comments really brightened my day. Since today is Sunday, I hang out with Hisano after purchasing some chess keys from Tanaka. She teaches me about the concept of a Tsuki Meinichi. A Meinichi is the day a person dies, and Tsuki Meinichi is that day of the month. We have an interesting conversation about the acceptance of death, and how someone's death can impact those around them. With this new outlook on what death means for the living, I decided to speak to Dojima about this serious subject. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 5th. Let's get going. At school, Mr. Hosoi teaches us about Kigo, specific phrases that, when used in haiku, are allegories to the four seasons. After discovering Teddy has snuck his way into Yasogami, Chie and I spend some time at Samagawa. At home, Dojima invites me out on an evening walk with Nanako, and hands me a coffee mug. He says that this is my personal mug, and that
I'll fill yours and Nanako's mugs anytime. Don't forget that.
We make our way to Samagawa, where Dojima tells me that he's faced himself, and he's not going to continue his search for Chisato's murderer to run away from his problems, but because it's what he has to do, as a detective. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 6th. Let's get going. It's raining again today, and I'm finally sick and tired of needing this goddamn goldfish. I was genuinely prepared to save scum, so when I saw that there were 2 ripples on a single breadcrumb I had, I pulled back my rod, and it didn't use up the breadcrumbs. I recast and finally catch the elusive red goldfish. I put the rod down, for now, and head to my tutoring gig at Nakajima-kun's. Out of the blue, he asked me if people get bullied at Yasogami. and I can't bring myself to tell the kid the truth, as he basically admits that he's the transfer student he brought up last time, who was being bullied. I decide to give him some advice, telling him he should put more effort into making friends, and he scrambles to say he wasn't talking about himself. He's actually a lot nicer than he let on. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 7th. Let's get going. Yosuke and Kanji catch me on the way to school, asking if I'm packed and ready for the trip tomorrow. Yosuke calls Kanji out for packing too many animal crackers, and Naoto shows up to scare him away before he can respond. After school, I finally give that cat-phobic guy his fish, and he runs off, so I decide to do something I haven't done in a while. Go shopping with Ai-chan. She doesn't have much luck clothes shopping, so I suggest coming back another day, but she says she doesn't want to waste her time today. She tries to tell me to make myself useful and get her a nice latte, but she can go get one herself. While stun-locked on the fact that I have a spine, the store clerk comes up and bothers her, so I rushes out the door with me in tow. Ai tells me that she hates salesmen, and thinks they should be replaced by vending machines, as they won't attempt to call me handsome. I walk Ai home, then head to bed in preparation for tomorrow. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 8th. Let's get going. We're finally back. The group shows up at none other than Gekkoukan High School, and let me tell you, it is great to be back at Tatsumi Port Island. After a long word from the principal, we're introduced to none other than the student council president, Chihiro Fushimi. Our favorite androphobe stuns the guys with not only her looks, but her amazing speech that Mitsuru helped write. We break off into groups, and Chihiro-senpai comes to me and asks if I can hand out the schedules, saying our group has a special lecture to get to. That special lecture is hosted by none other than Professor Adagawa. He starts to teach us about the Kabbalah, but gets sidetracked and tells us the story of Izanami and Izanagi. Izanami died giving birth to the fire god, but instead of letting his beloved stay dead, Izanagi dove into Yomotsu Hirasaka to save her. Unfortunately, he broke his promise to not look at Izanami, and cursed Japan forever. Kinda sounds like the story of Orpheus. We make it to a familiar-looking hotel and discover that none other than Teddy is here. We end the day by making plans for tomorrow's free time. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 9th. Let's get going. We finally get some free time to roam the island, and we find ourselves at Paulownia Mall and Club Escapade. We go to head upstairs and run into Naoto, who does his best attempt at a disappearing act. We stop him before he can leave, and head upstairs to Matatsu-san's old stomping grounds. Rise says we got this private room because 2 years ago, she had a secret midnight show where the power went out, so the owner owed her one. Even though we're underage and weren't served alcohol, Teddy and Yukiko are already sloshed. Rise, also drunk off the atmosphere and in a rebellious mood, suggests we play the King's Game. The first round goes swimmingly, knocking the Boys Love contestants out for the count. But things start to heat up during round 2 when I become the king. I'm given the choice between someone resting on my lap, sitting on my lap, hugging me, or me giving someone a piggyback ride. And after giving Yosuke the ride of his life, Yukiko's ploy finally reveals itself. Dragging Naoto up here was a chance to get him to reveal his past to us, which he sort of does, but he gets upset when he asks how we're connected to the cases, and we tell him the truth. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 10th, and it's the last day of our trip back to Iwatodai. Funnily enough, the Answer DLC for Persona 3 Reload releases today, so at least you all can go back and experience March 31st, 2009 once again. Our investigation team finds itself at Hagakure Ramen, a place I literally wrote in my notes as the Kenji Ramen Place. While looking around at the celebrity signatures on the wall, Teddy sneakily steals Yukiko's ramen, and we discover the bear has consumed 11 bowls, and 90% of Yosuke's wallet.
I don't know how to count.
We finally head back to Yasuo Inaba, and I'm greeted by Nanako, who I hand a souvenir, and promise to take her with me next time. Unk comes home, and when Nanako runs off the bed, he sits down and asks if I can bring Naoto into my group to keep an eye on him. Way ahead of you. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 11th. Let's get going. Now that we're back from Tatsumi Port Island, I resume my regular Sunday ritual of praying to the capitalist gods. They unfortunately decide not to bless me today. After harvesting my veggies and checking in on the guy who's afraid of cats, I spend the day with Hisano. This time, she asks about me, saying I can talk about anything. I speak to her about the city, as she's told me she's lived here her whole life, and she chuckles before putting on a solemn face. Hisano tells me she doesn't want to see me again, as I remind her too much of her late husband. Did I just get dumped? I cope with this development by reading about gardening. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 12th. Let's get going. In class, Kashiwagi teaches us about bears, specifically what pandas are called in Japanese. They used to be called Shirokuro Kuma, or white and black bears. All this talk about bears makes me wonder where Teddy is. Oh, there he is. I head to my job at the daycare, where Yuta's playing Featherman with some of the kids. Weirdly, he calls out the name of an attack that doesn't exist in Featherman lore, and the kids start to make fun of him. Eri doesn't show up, so I start to walk Yuta home, and he tells me he never gets to watch TV because she's always using it. Suddenly, Eri runs up disheveled, apologizing for being late. Yuta gets pissed and runs off, and Eri questions what kids even want. I tell her to let him watch TV sometimes, and she reacts like I've gifted her the knowledge of the universe. I head home to watch the news with Nanako, and who else appears but Naoto? I guess he's giving an interview about how he believes Mitsuo might not be the culprit. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 13th. Let's get going. On the way to school, I run into most of the gang discussing Naoto's appearance on the news, and we get confronted by the celeb himself. He tells us he's basically figured out the modus operandi of the killer, save for the exact method of killing. He even points out that everyone in the group fits the bill of a victim, and that further action must be taken to confirm his thesis. He's gonna do something drastic, isn't he? I try not to think about it and head to basketball practice. Ko's missing, but after practice I notice his shoes in his locker, so I figure he's up on the roof. My intuition's right, and Ko and I have a deep conversation about how he doesn't like basketball anymore. Without his parents pushing back, he's lost his main motivator, so now he's depressed. I tell him to chin up, but he tells me to leave him be. I head home and read before bed. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 14th. Let's get going. It's our first rainy day in a while, and I figure that since I finally dealt with the guy who used to be afraid of cats, I should report to the fox. After telling her I've successfully fulfilled Emma's wishes, I head home. Like I said, it's the first time it's rained overnight in a while, so I figure I should check the Midnight Channel. Surprise, surprise, a figure appears. It looks a little like Satine Cries, which is the most you're going to get from me regarding Naoto's voice actor. Yosuke calls, and I tell him it looked like Naoto, and with him not coming to school the past few days, he might be in danger. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 15th. Let's get going. We meet up in the classroom to discuss the Midnight Channel, and the fact that our favorite ace detective has been absent from school for 3 days. Kanji says there's no reason to worry, as the killer's been caught, but Yosuke keeps pressing the issue, which pisses Kanji off. He leaves, and Yukiko points out the town has been acting pretty strange since Mitsuo was captured. Rise says that's just how society is, always wanting to move on from last week's news. We resolve to check the Midnight Channel tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I am the Detective Prince, Naoto Shiragane. Welcome to Experiment of the Century, the Genome Project.
Well guys, I think something bad happened to Naoto. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 16th. Let's get going. The gang meets at Junes to discuss last night's programming. We come to the conclusion that Naoto took the interview the other day to bait the killer into kidnapping him, proving his theory that Mitsuo wasn't the killer. Kanji shoots out of his chair, realizing that the longer we wait around talking, the more danger Naoto gets in. We head into the TV, and like every victim before, our navigator needs some info before we can locate them, so we begin our info hunt. After checking his class and one of his admirers, I discover that Naoto's been having a bit of a spat with the local PD. After twisting the truth, the officer in the shopping district mentions that he seemed obsessed with the case, and the trail runs cold. I decide that since I've been doing all my running around today, I should stop by the fox, who gives me a new Emma, this time to find this girl's wallet. After retracing her steps, I clear the Emma in one day, then head home to read. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 17th. Let's get going. After class, I resume my info hunt for Rise, and after coming across an officer that lets slip that the police department treats Naoto like a kid, we have everything we need to sniff his dungeon out. We find what looks like a secret laboratory, and the gang gets excited while reminiscing about their favorite childhood shows, like Featherman. I hop into the dungeon, running the full dude team, as Kanji and Teddy are a little underleveled. It's a slow, painful slog, as most hallway fights are only weak to one element, or no elements at all. But we make it to floor 4, where we encounter a locked door to the research area. We descend a little further to floor 6, where, after my first death in a while, I stumble upon the research card. We backtrack and come face to face with the guard robot. It's a simple fight, just long, and we grab our leader key before calling it quits for the day. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 18th. Let's get going. Guess what day it is? Rather than buy the Soma this week, I pick up a reprisal chain, an equip item that grants the counter skill. I stop at the shrine to pick up the final request from an Emma, and one that will guarantee me an achievement. Catch the Sea Guardian. In order to do this, I have to wait for a rainy day, so this is a mission for later. I head to Samagawa and run into Hisano, who admits she was kind of hoping I would come, even though she told me not to. Grandma's just playing hard to get. Okay, that's vile. She tells me more about her husband, like how when they were younger, he would write letters to her between their annual dates. She gives me some great advice, too. Write letters to your loved ones. Conveying your feelings in written word can be way more impactful than through the spoken one. Taking this lesson to heart, I head home to read. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 19th. Let's get going. While doing some shopping, I run into Marie in front of the Velvet Room, and she seems a little depressed. I decide to try and cheer her up by taking her to relax at the riverfront. She's clearly down in the dumps, as she demands I produce a dolphin from thin air to lighten her mood. When I can't perform a magic trick, she sighs and tells me that she's given up on finding the answer to her lost memories. I get a little irritated at this, as I've been doing my best to help her, and she's ready to just throw all that away. I call her a coward, and she gets mad, telling me to leave her alone. Is this the end of my time with the gamer girl? I guess we'll find out next time. At least I learned some English today. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 20th. Let's get going. In class, we learn about old people, and after checking my empty shoe locker, I decide it's finally time to hang out with Naoki. We meet up at Aya to eat some beef bowls, and he tells me he hasn't been able to come to Aya much recently. I ask if it's because he's been busy helping out at the liquor store, and he tells me that he's been busy dealing with his neighbors and the media instead. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to be harassed for 5 months about your sister's death. He asks me what an admirable life is, and honestly, I don't know. I feel like everyone has to find their calling, and I can't tell Naoki what will make him feel fulfilled. After finishing up my bowl, I head home to harvest the veggies with Nanako. Then I head to my tutoring job. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 21st. Let's get going. During lunch, Ai-chan comes up to me and tells me we're hanging out today. So after class, I take her to Okina on my scooter. She says she doesn't feel like shopping, so I suggest we just relax and enjoy the atmosphere. She smirks and tells me that if she wasn't forced to be the team manager, we probably would have never met, and that even though she's not a big sports person, it's still fun to cheer me on. Like a bolt from the blue, it's time for the creeper that goons. This random guy confesses to Ai in the middle of our date, and she shoots him down in a pretty harsh way. I call her out, and she actually gives me a pretty understandable answer, even if it's shallow. He might be a nice guy, but she doesn't find him attractive, so she wouldn't want to get his hopes up and lead him on. I drop Ai off back at her house, and run into Chie by Aya. We chat for a little about the school trip. A sincerity cookie? Aww. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 22nd. Let's get going. At lunch, I'm accosted by both Ai-chan and Naoki, but I have to say sorry to both, as I've decided to save Naoto today. I also need to grind up my Makami so I can have access to the Autosukukaja card, but thankfully, I encounter a treasure hand that not only gives Makami the experience it needed, it catches the girls up to where the guys were, so I stroll on down to floor 9. Naoto's there, and in a surprising twist of fate, he's the one bullying the Shadow. Oddly enough, Shadow Naoto turns the tables and reveals his big secret. Naoto was never a man. Naoto is a girl.
That's not true!
The fight with Shadow Naoto is a bit easier than the last boss, as she only gets one move a turn. To compensate, we get hit with party-wide Dyne skills, but we basically walk through the fight unscathed. Naoto gives us some of her lore, namely that she felt the only way she could succeed as a detective was if she was a man. She accepts her gender, and awakens to Sukuna Hikona. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 23rd. Let's get going. With Naoto finally safe and sound, there's not much to do until she's back to full health. I check out Okina City and discover the new Crane Game prize is a Neko Shogun, but after dumping some yen into the machine, I just can't seem to grab him. Depressed, I run into Marie, who's also depressed. She tells me she wants to apologize for last time we hung out, and upon reaching the hill overlooking town, She explains that her outburst last time was due to her fear over not remembering anything. She feels like everything she knows is borrowed, and she doesn't have anything uniquely hers. But she turns around to take in the view.
It's beautiful.
She remembers the last time she was here, and I tell her that she's remembered something. A new memory, made with me. She asks me why I worry about her, and why I take care of her. And this is where I tell everyone watching that Marie is my favorite of the P4 girls. With girlfriend 3 in the bag, I head to my janitor job in the evening. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 24th. Let's get going. After class, I fail some more at catching Neko Shogun, then decide to head to basketball practice. I come home to find Nanako and Adachi watching the news, when out of the blue, Adachi suggests knocking out some homework. Super out of character. He ignores my homework though, as Nanako says she has a book report to do. She runs and grabs the book, and realizes it wasn't even a report. She just needed to read the book and make sure an adult saw her do it. Man, I miss easy homework. It's Akinari's book. After wiping the tears from my eyes, I zone back into the conversation to find Adachi being slightly misogynistic, saying things like, "Marriage is the place fun goes to die." Thankfully, Nanako just takes this to mean married people bicker. I'm gonna have a chat with Adacho about that later. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 25th. Let's get going. Before I can actually get going, though, Ai-chan calls to tell me we're going shopping in Okino. While out and about, she says she's been looking at a new bangle, and says I should buy it for her. When my only other option is to lie, I say sure, why not? This is the wrong answer, apparently. After being used as a pack mule all day, I come home to a nice cup of coffee from Dojima. Then I head upstairs to buy Kanji a new weapon from the shopping channel, before ending my night with a good book. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 26th. Let's get going. Rain, go away. I want to see my friends today. With the stormy weather, I'm extremely limited in my options, as usual. But I remember I still need to catch the Sea Guardian for the old fisherman. That was easier than I thought. I celebrate with some reading. Woo, office supplies. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 27th. Let's get going. It's raining again, and on the way to school, Rise barges under my umbrella. She tells me to squeeze in with her, but I fight horny with horny, and tell her I'm sexier when I'm soaked. After school, I stop by the bookstore and grab the last book from the avid reader outside, then speed home to hang out with Chie in my room. She makes some small talk about how clean my room is. Then the conversation turns more intimate, as she has something she wants to tell me. She wants to find out what makes her unique, and she wants to do it with me. To commemorate this occasion, Chie gives me some of her sweaty wristbands. I max my social link with Chie, evolving her persona into Suzuka Gongen, and granting me the ability to fuse Futsunushi.
I just got done with training. I'm still all sweaty. Idiot.
Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 28th. Let's get going. On my way home, I get stopped by my locker by Ko and some of his classmates. Ko introduces me, and the guys start asking what basketball club's like with such a hot manager. They start spreading rumors about Ai, calling her a whore and loose, and I tell them to knock it off. That's my friend you're talking about. Ko gets pissed too, and tells the pest to run off before apologizing for him. Man, he might be the coolest dude in school. He leaves, and lo and behold, Ai-chan comes out of hiding to reveal she was there the whole time. I invite her out, and she gets a little flustered that I'm ignoring the bonehead's comments. I walk Ai home, then head back to harvest the veggies,
Great vegetables.
before turning in with a good book. Welcome to Persona Every Day. Today's September 29th. Let's get going. At lunch, Ai tells me we're hanging out today, but the rebel in me says I have bigger fish to fry. Namely, showing this big fish to the old man. He congratulates me, and says that now that he's trained me to be better than him, he has a renewed sense of purpose in training fishermen. I leave him to tend to his business and head to Sozai Daigaku, where I run into Naoki. He tells me about his day, and we're genuinely having a good time, but the local gossip moms walk past and immediately ruin it. They comment on how Naoki looks like he's having fun, when he should be grieving for his sister. And I genuinely get mad. Life doesn't just stop when you lose a loved one. I have half a mind to go tell him off, but Naoki stops me, showing his maturity by saying they aren't worth my time. We break off, and I stop at the shrine on the way home to pull a fortune for Adachi. I've got plans for October. Welcome to Persona Everyday. Today's September 30th. Let's get going. I do some running around to start the day, mostly just picking up a quest, pulling a present out of my locker, and winning Neko Shogun from the claw machine. I head back to school and run into Ai, who drags me up to the roof. She thanks me for sticking up for her last time, and says that she's been feeling anxious ever since. Her heart beats faster, she barely sleeps, she thinks she's in love. Wait, what? Girl, I know I joke about it a lot, but...
It's Kokun.
Oh, thank God. Wait, what? Ai asked me to play wingman for her and asked Ko what his type is, and I figure I might as well help her out. In the evening, I go work my janitor job at the hospital, and come across some nurses whispering about Sayoko. Speak of the devil, and she shall appear, and she yells at them for slacking on their work. She looks very tired and pale, so I tell her not to overwork herself, but she ignores me and continues on. She's gonna be okay, right?